Hi, this is Timo from Chapter Magazine. Before we start with this special English language episode of Chapter Talks, a quick note from our editorial team. This episode is brought to you in collaboration with Philips TV and Sound. We would like to point out that the sponsoring of this episode's production did not affect any editorial content of this episode, which was independently created by Chapter Magazine, as always.
Well, I remember many times market testing, and specifically in Paris, there was a belief that television is bad, or at least it's not good for your reputation or your image. So people would say they don't watch it, but then they actually own one, and they it's a kind of dirty secret almost.
Yeah. Welcome to an English language episode of Chapter Talks, the Chapter Magazine podcast. We talk to leading personalities from the field of design, mobility and innovation about the design concepts, leadership philosophies, as well as their personal success stories. My name is Timo Schmidt, I'm the creative director of Chapter Magazine, and today's guest is Rod White, Chief Design Officer at Philips TV and Sound. Rod White graduated in furniture design from Edinburgh College of Arts and started his career in Tokyo designing products for Toshiba before he began working for Philips Designs in different roles. In his current position as Global Chief Design Officer, he laid the foundation of the so-called European design philosophy for the brand's TV and sound products. Thanks, Rod. First of all, thank you for taking the time to be our guest on today's episode of Chapter Talks. And yeah, I'm very happy to have you here today with me. Although we can't be in the same physical location, we can at least see each other on screen. And I see you're in a very nice surrounding. I don't know, is that your work from home situation or?
Well, actually, as a design team, we've been working from home for the last 13 months. So we're pretty much used to it. So we have to make the best of it. And it would have been nice if we were together in a studio somewhere in Germany, but this is where we are.
Yeah, next time probably.
Exactly.
Yeah, doing my research for today's episode, I read some interesting facts about you, and one that really stuck to my mind was that you initially studied furniture design in Edinburgh, and the question I had that immediately popped up into my head was, now you're designing TVs, and is that like a coincidence, or do you see some parallels between the TV being maybe more like a furniture than an electric device?
Well, actually, when I studied furniture, the definition I was given at that point was furniture is anything that you can lift into the hold of a ship. So, when you used to transport things around the world, your life. So obviously a TV would fit into that. But also if you think of the origins of televisions, if you go back in, 90 years or so, it was a piece of furniture. It was a piece of wooden construction with legs in it. So that's the reality. But also in our day-to-day, we need to design products that fit into modern homes as furniture does, and take references from interior and furniture cues that make the television blend in rather than stand out.
So actually working from home at the moment actually can be beneficial for your working situation, right? Because you experience more time at home and maybe can be closer to where you see your customers.
That's true. I think one of the biggest changes, obviously we have a studio in Amsterdam, which is very comfortable when we're there. But obviously the lack of travel is the biggest change. So that means more time at home. So then, yes, there's more opportunity to sit on the couch and experience the television for sure.
Do you have any first memory of you somehow watching TV, and did that play a role in you picking Destination as a TV designer in the broader sense?
For myself, I remember memories such as sporting events that happened, World Cup, Football World Cup, or Wimbledon tennis, or these kind of annual or frequent sporting events, or when special movies, like as a kid, everybody wanted to see the James Bond movie. When it came on television, it was always part of Christmas when the movies were coming in, the special TVs. Obviously, things have changed, but that's a warm memory of being a child in television. But it was always very much about group viewing. I would say it's part of the family experience to sit down in front of the television.
Well, actually, like I personally, I don't have a TV at home yet. I'm actually looking to get one because I realized it is obviously it is a nice idea to have this projector like cinema at home situation, but immediately what comes with it is like what you gonna do with sound and everything. And I realized that my viewing habit has changed. I remember back in the day, like cinema style situation, and now I feel like it is a lot more like social to watch TV. A lot of people don't simply just focus on the screen itself. Is that something you experience as well?
For sure. Actually, it's something we noticed initially in Asia and China specifically, that it became a multi-screen experience maybe about 10 years ago. So especially in China, I think also because multi-generations live under the same roof. So maybe, grandparents, parents and children. So maybe there's a social gathering in front of the television where there's multiple screens. TV is on, watching some content, maybe decision by dad, for example. But then the kids have some other content coming in via the tablet or laptop on the knee or smartphone. So that was when it became known. And then the European feeling when we were starting to research those things was, no, that's strange. But actually it's the same now. I would say it's a hub or it's a hearth to the living room. The fire used to be where you gathered around, and now we gather around the television.
And this multi-device situation you just described, is it mainly like focused on like watching content, or does this also include like interaction with content or among like each other?
I think there's a couple of different examples. So if you are watching the new Netflix series and everybody's engaged, then that's what you watch. But then maybe the news is on the television and not everybody wants to watch that. So then it's a much richer experience because you can also have a lot of stuff coming in via the internet or parallel channels. So basically it's allowing the exchange of information, communication, entertainment, all to run simultaneously in front of one key device.
What you just described, it kind of comes in handy that you're not only designing TV sets like in the classical sense, but also a lot of other display products like monitors, tablets, and smartphones. Many of them more focused on the purpose of watching rather than maybe communicating, what we just talked about. Do you think at some point this will make the actual like centerpiece TV obsolete?
I think that was also a belief or a concern to the TV industry a few years ago. So we spend half our time doing display devices, another half doing audio and headphones. But in the end, the sound part is all about you want to experience great sound. You don't necessarily need boxes in the room, but you want the great sound. And similarly, you need you want the experience from the display, whether it's a small screen or a large screen. It's more about the experience than it is about the device. So we have to create products that allow people to get those points of excitement or engagement or immersion, basically.
Sure, yeah. I think this also makes the TV kind of unique because it has to like do its job somehow, but it also has to like step into the background and let the users experience the content and really focus on the content. Maybe that what makes it a bit different to like a car where you like interact with the car itself in such an intense way. And that's probably a bit different when it comes to TVs, no?
I think so. But then also with your phone in your pocket, you have a relationship with the product. When you have the new version of the new phone, then you want to show your friends. Similarly with the car, actually, if you love cars and you buy a new car, then you're keen to enjoy it, but also show it off. That's human nature. And similarly with the television, there's a kind of duality of. There used to be some belief that television was maybe not good for you, and it was dumbing down the education of children, for example, all those beliefs. But now, given that a TV is a smart device, then you can be watching a lot more information than just terrestrial channels. And then the engagement or the relationship you have with the television has changed over those years.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it's even like from outside and me not being in this industry, I can definitely say back in the day, it was considered very like passive to watch TV. And maybe that's also where some of the bad reputation came from, that it kind of like sucked your time without you getting any benefit out of it or like killing time. So I think this is definitely a change of also the perception of the device itself. Is there a way you are working with these like emotions when you're approaching the design?
Well, I remember many times market testing, and specifically in Paris, there was a belief that television is bad, or at least it's not good for your reputation or your image. So people would say they don't watch it, but then they actually own one, and they it's a kind of dirty secret almost.
Yeah.
That was then. I think slowly. Well, one thing is it was a heavy, large device in the living room. So if you've got an elegant living room, it was difficult to make such a big product blend seamlessly into your environment. For sure, technology has allowed that to be much more seamless. So with the displays getting larger, but getting the bezels disappearing, very flat devices you can mount on the wall, makes it less of an eyesore for people. I've heard so many times from especially women or people who are more interested in their interiors. They hate the black rectangle. We need to kill the black rectangle, those kind of comments. But I think also when the TV becomes so thin, you can hang it like a painting on the wall, then the benefit outweighs any interior design concerns.
I mean, absolutely. With the opinions you just described, it makes clear that you're not only designing a product, but you're really looking into people's lives also, really, no? And you're designing, and you're also taking part in designing people's lives by creating a product that is so present in like a home.
Well, it's interesting. So in a store, the television from a design point of view has two roles. A short period in the store, it needs to be able to stand out. So it needs to attract you from entering the store. You want to buy a television, you don't know which one, and from a distance they do look similar. But then as you approach, there should be something unique, innovative, visibly different in a meaningful way, detailing in the design that draws you in. So it needs to be able to stand out. But when you get the same product through the door into your house, you need it to blend in. So it has a duality of design challenge, I would say. So we have to understand people's needs, and we have to be able to design a product that they're happy to have in their home. It fits into the context. So picking up modern material cues from other furniture or interior reference points, and then detailing it in a way that communicates lightness. Lightness is communicating latest technology. So then the lightness of the detailing on the stands, and of course the remote control in the hand, then it should be intuitive in the way the material feels in your hand. Those are the touch points that we spend a lot of time designing.
Yeah, many articles and interviews describe the design of Philips as a European design. Is that what you're referring to when you say this, like certain lightness to each product and each component?
So yes, European design is it's quite a large expression, and there's many different versions of it. Obviously, if you ask a fashion house or a car styling studio, or in the case of us, Philips, there's different takes on the same topic, European design. We as a team came up with 4 principles or rules by which we design. So the first of which is we should design products with no unnecessary detailing. So in the end, we're competing against other brands from other parts of the world, and we need to have a clear, recognizable look. So we bring in real materials, metals, polished aluminium, fabrics, leathers, but they should be there for a purpose. So no unnecessary detailing is the first one. If you pick up a remote control, you should easily understand which is the front end, where you put your thumb. That's the second one. The third is about the coming together of parts. So if you look at the construction of a pair of headphones or a television, the way that the pieces of metal or the metal and the leather come together should be delightful as a user. And the last one is innovative use of materials. So maybe about 6-7 years ago, we recognized that television was becoming a bit too technical, a little bit too masculine, mainly because the dimensions were becoming so tight. So we started to work with Kvadrat from Denmark, making fabrics. And since from then till now, we have several different Kvadrat fabrics, acoustic fabrics running across our ranges that really allow the product to fit into the home. So that's an example of bringing innovative materials into the home. Similarly, we've been working the last 3 years with a Scottish leather group called Muirhead, who are known in their industry in cars and other aircraft seating, for example. So when you pick up our premium remote control, you feel a real piece of Scottish leather, which feels good. And in your hand, you turn it over, the way it comes together. It's a clear, relevant use of innovative material in consumer electronics.
I mean, earlier you referred to this image of a picture on the wall being kind of the perfect design, or like the moment where the TV blends in perfectly with the home. So I think what you're just describing is super interesting also about the remote control, because in the end, the TV is a product you barely ever touch, right?
Yeah, and also, actually, we probably spend more time designing the remote control than we do the television, because there's so many complex. It's a small thing, but if you're we have an Android platform, so there's Google functionality. There's the traditional keys, the number keys, the color keys, the navigation. There's voice activation on the remote control, so you can, if you want to, you can drive the experience through voice control. So there's many things coming into one device, which in the end is the only part that you touch.
Yeah, I mean, technology and constantly new developments in technology are super interesting as well, because you also said that the product in the end can't look too masculine or shouldn't be like bursting from like the newest like innovation. Something that came to my mind immediately was the fact that maybe that the magazine also looks a lot like at car designs and like car industry, and all car brands have this like show car that shows off like the latest innovation, and it sometimes is not just focused on innovation but also just like the design, so the form. Is there something similar in your industry?
There has been in the past, I would say. So when I first started working in consumer electronics, the change rate of the products, or the lifespan of the products, was around 3 years. We would change. So then through those years, we occasionally did concept cars. But realistically, our range mostly changes every 12 months. So we do concept cars, but they're for internal use or for a very select customer key partner discussion in order to know what we're doing. But the creation phase is so tight, given the 1 year cycle, that basically at the moment we've more or less finished 2022 and we start to move on to 2023. So the purpose of a show car is less relevant in consumer electronics, especially if you consider a car takes normally 5 to 6 years to create. So they have the space in that program to get the benefit from a show car.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fast-moving industry, and it's a huge market also, consumer electronics. Is there anything in particular that makes it interesting for you as a designer to create a mass product like this? I mean, even though I just learned it's actually like quite a lot of product you're pushing out there every year.
Well, I think they never stand still. So the technology is pushing, the technology is driving change through miniaturization, for example, better or more compact components to allow sound devices to be more compact. The panel picture is just incredible if you compare it to what was there 5-10 years ago. So then that evolving need for a new television and a new execution of it, or a new display in your hand, for example, is a challenge. But we also, from a Philips standpoint, we're always very much about a consumer need rather than an industry push. So industry pushes are all very well, but they're only relevant and they only really land if they have genuine value add to people's lives. So you see over the years, there's been many launches of things like curved televisions or 3D television. These came out over the years, but they didn't really genuinely fit into people's lives. So in the end, they ran for a few years and then disappeared. So that balance of finding something that is a genuine need and designing it in a way that fits in or enhances people's lives, that's a great challenge for us as a team.
Yeah, challenge I think is the right word, because for me it's super hard to imagine where in this whole process of also technology pushing forward the design actually comes in. Do you maybe have a way to explain it to our listeners? Where does design come in this whole process?
I think it depends on the project, but for example, if you look at our premium ranges, the collaboration we have with Bowers & Wilkins, so we create our premium OLED and also top-end LED ranges together with Bowers & Wilkins. In the end, television, in this case television, the frame, so the bezel was so tight, the volume was just not there for top-end premium sound.
Mm-hmm.
It was understood, it was a challenge, and we as a design team created the link to Bowers and Wilkins in the UK. And those first early days, the workshops working with them was very easy, actually, because they're experts in their world and we're experts in our world. So it worked very seamlessly as two teams coming together as one. But that allowed us a great space suddenly to start to look at different details, different material uses, communicating the tweeter on the Bowers and Wilkins OLED 95, 96, that kind of area. Suddenly opened up a space that we didn't previously explore.
So would you say that a collaboration with a partner like this is something that inspires you?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is it was very natural from the kickoff. Their vocabulary on their engineering side and ours on our engineering side was very aligned almost. So they're looking for, that last 10% that differentiates a good television from a great television.
And apart from like working with partners, what else does inspire you? Is it the things you watch on screens also, or how much TV time do you have in your day? Is there any left?
Not so much, actually. But on a normal year, we would start with, so basically from now in the year, so in April, May time, we start looking at 2023. Mm-hmm. And for that, we normally would be in Milan for the furniture fair.
Of course,
is now postponed until September. But the starting point is starting to understand societal shifts in needs, in behavior, which can be extrapolated into understanding how forms, materials, colors, finishes are slowly changing. Because if you can identify that, and obviously Milan is a good starting point for it's the main furniture and interior event of the year. So from there, you can start to make or recognize signals and then understand how that will be seen on the high streets of Europe, for example, 2 years later. So if you already know what's coming, then you can start to look at materials or finishings on our products that make sense, whether it's in the living room, but also we do a lot of audio on the go, so headphones or Bluetooth speakers. Similarly, we can see the triggers that are going to be influencing our user groups for the future.
Does this usually work, or is there something like a product that you look at now, you back in the day thought this would be right, will be the perfect timing, this will come like right, the exact perfect moment where people will really want this, and maybe you're looking at now and find it a bit awkward even?
I think over the years I've been designing, so one example would be, I used to work in Japan for Toshiba, doing a lot of domestic appliances. Mm-hmm. And I think, I was very junior also at the point, but it was a very marketing-led industry in consumer electronics over there. So in the end, there's a certain look, and that is what the category must look like it was a fan heater of some sort. Mm-hmm. And then the negotiation between designer and marketing head, in the end, they won, and then we end up launching a product that I'm not very happy with. So those things happen, and that's part of being a designer. As a design team, we design as a team, but even the team itself, the output of the team has to work with how we're going to sell it, for what price, how do we manufacture it. It's a larger team effort.
A fun idea to imagine a product that is so like marketing led, and I can totally imagine it looking quite awkward. So as a last question, because our time actually is almost over, unfortunately, and thank you for giving us this interesting insight in your work field, because I feel like we're all using these products, and the moments where you can have a look inside the industry or like behind the curtain, behind the screen, is not so often. So I already want to thank you for giving us this insight. And the last question would be, do you think the way we are watching films and series is going to dramatically change in the near future, or will the TV stay in constant go-to device?
Well, first of all, to answer how you started that question, thank you very much for the opportunity for being here. It's a joy to be in this discussion. And in answer to your actual question, I think the basic need or the latent need of people on the couch at the end of the evening is to relax, unwind. So this has been a strange year where everybody is forced to be home, but that's coming to an end, hopefully soon. So then travel starts, pressure, commuting, all the things that we were dealing with a year and a half ago will return in some level. So then the need to unwind whether it's on your own or with your family or whoever, will remain. So then the need to disconnect from stress and chill out, whether in front of a Champions League game or a movie, will always be there. So I think, if you compare what a TV is when I started in Philips to what it is now, it's a very different object. It's still called a television, but now it's fully connected and it's flat and it's probably 65-inch. In the past, it was a three-dimensional large box and it was super heavy and was probably 32-inch. So it's a very different animal. And how it morphs over the next 10 years is going to be very interesting. Does it disappear when it's off? Let's hope so. Is it any size you want it to be, whether it's a 24-inch to watch the news or a 100-inch to watch the Champions League game? Maybe that would be nice. But for sure, there is a need for a product in the category of television. And we as a team are very much looking forward to designing it.
Thank you. So I'm waving goodbye on the screen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. This was today's episode of Chapter Talks. My name is TIMO Schmidt, and on behalf of the whole Chapter team, I'd like to say thank you for listening. We would appreciate if you subscribe to our podcast channel, visit chapter.digital for updates and multimedia features on the field of design, innovation, and mobility, or follow us on Instagram at chapter.magazine.